Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's just jump right in, shall we? Today, we're looking at a super common and honestly kind of frustrating developer dilemma. We're diving into Ang's May 2026 notes to look at a real-world Haskell refactoring scenario. And really, we're trying to figure out why making your code shorter doesn't automatically make it better.
I mean, we all do it, right? We strive to write the absolute most concise code possible. It's like a reflex. You want to condense that logic down to a beautiful, elegant one-liner. But we really have to stop and ask ourselves, is shorter code always better? Like, at what point does being hyper-concise actually start hurting our ability to read the thing? When does being clever just get in the way of being clear? Because let's be real, you don't want the next developer, which, hey, might literally be you in 6 months, staring at the screen completely baffled.
Section 1. The Pursuit of DRY. Refactoring for less repetition.
So to understand this balance, we're starting with a foundational concept we all know, dry, or don't repeat yourself. The whole point here is to reduce repetition by swapping out repetitive patterns with abstractions. Ang starts by applying this to a piece of Haskell code, intentionally pulling a pure function out of individual case branches to centralize the logic.
By importing data.byfunctor and shifting this function block right to the front of the expression, boom, the repetition is gone. It does exactly what DRY is supposed to do. But, well, as is super common in software development, right? Solving one problem just kind of opens the door to an entirely new challenge.
Moving on to Section 2, the conciseness trap, when shorter isn't better.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the deliberate choice Ang makes to avoid over-optimizing. They point out a super tempting shortcut. They could make the code hyper-concise by completely removing manual case matching, but they explicitly say no to this. Instead, they choose to stick with using case expressions to handle either results. Why? Well, because removing those matches actually hurts readability, and more importantly, it breaks consistency with the rest of the codebase. It's a great reminder that context matters way more than character count. Honestly, nobody wants to decipher a colleague's custom logic puzzle when they're just trying to fix a bug at 4 p.m. on a Friday.
Which brings us to Section 3, the overloaded strings compromise, finding the elegant middle ground.
So the goal is finding a way to improve the code base while keeping that familiar, readable case expression format totally intact. To hit that stylistic consistency, Ang targets one specific piece of the puzzle, the unpack function. The mission? Get rid of it entirely from the logic chain.
And the simplest way to drop that function without messing up the style is actually a really slick two-step maneuver. First, switch over to the overloaded strings extension. Making that structural change triggers step 2. You can now just drop the unpack function altogether. The refactor works out beautifully, and the project's established style stays completely untouched.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates that elegant compromise. We end up with this incredibly clean, readable case block, handling the right and left results without any of that unnecessary clutter. It perfectly matches how the rest of the code base handles either results. It just goes to show, you absolutely can improve code quality without throwing away the visual language that your entire team relies on.
All right, Section 4, a matter of taste, the philosophy of code style.
This whole exercise really encapsulates a bigger philosophical lesson. I love this quote from Ang. In the end, it's just a matter of taste and preferences, but also whether we want to adopt a newer approach or not. It reminds us that beyond the strict, dry rules of engineering, CodeStar relies super heavily on code-based consistency and a team's willingness to actually evolve. Code isn't just math, right? It's communication.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider your own refactoring habits. Where exactly do you draw the line between concise code and consistent style in your own projects? Are you maybe sacrificing clarity just for the sake of brevity? Next time you sit down to dry up a code base, just remember, keeping things readable for your fellow developers is almost always the most elegant solution of all.